Welcome in to Wager Talks Last Call. It is college football week 8, and we have a star-studded lineup for you guys here on this gorgeous Saturday morning. Art DiCesare from the Westgate Superbook is going to be up first. VR, well, even though he's in Vancouver for the UFC, he's going to be joining us to give us a look behind the computer screen as opposed to the counter. Teddy Covers is going to come in and answer all of your questions, and then Kyle Anthony is batting cleanup. He's going to talk about UFC Vancouver for you guys. So if you have a question, drop it in the chat. I'm going to try to get to everybody, especially those Wager Talk insiders. If you guys are not a Wager Talk insider, wt.buzz/insiders. This is going to get you guys early access to all the stuff that we do here at Wager Talk, all of our free videos that we put so much hard work into. And of course, you guys got emojis, you get the cool little symbol next to your name. So we know to prioritize you guys in the chat, wt.buzz/insiders. You know who else is an insider? Art DiCesare. He's been blowing up on the TikTok there on Superbook Nevada. John Hoagland, social media manager for not only them, but also Wager Talk, has him going viral. And that is because he's been red hot here in the NFL. I'm going to bring Art onto the stage, see what he's doing here this morning. Good morning, Art. I know it's bright and early there on the West Coast, so always appreciate you hanging out with us. Let's just get right into this week's college football card.
Yeah, let's start with the early stuff. And there's a lot of early action that we've seen on these 9 a.m. Vegas kickoff times. Oklahoma, South Carolina, it's actually been sharps on both sides. We've seen them lay Oklahoma as low as 4, take South Carolina as high as 5.5. Pretty good two-way on that. UConn at BC. BC was a 1.5-point favorite on the opener. UConn has taken money. UConn now 1-point favorite in that game. This is a game I remember talking about earlier in the week, and it feels like it got faked down, and that happens sometimes. They took Georgia Tech early in the week at +3. We saw Duke as low as 1.5. We got up to Duke 3.5 this morning, and then there was a bite back on the 3.5. So we're back to the original number. Duke -3.
Real quick, Art, I want to interject on that game.
Yeah.
Because here's my thing. A lot of people are texting me back and forth, and I'm like, well, we know it got dummied up because VR told me on Bet on it about this game. But here's the real reality. They did. Can you kind of let me back it up for everybody who doesn't understand what's going on. Can you kind of explain what the process is there and what they did and how they set up that game?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, think about it. Earlier in the week, right? Sunday when we open the lines, Monday morning, lower limits. But it doesn't mean things can't be moved. So if you see money and it gets moved and the market starts moving that way, absolutely you're going to go with it. And then obviously as we get closer to game time, the limits increase and then they get the side they want. It happens all the time. So does it always work? No. But it looks like Duke is the preferred side here. So I think that is evident on what has happened with that, kind of fake movement early on in the week and us shooting up to as high as 3.5. Now, people are going to buy off football numbers when they're 3 and 7s. They're always going to do that. They see it 3.5. They're going to take it, especially if they laid 1.5 with Duke. They're looking for a middle. So happens a lot.
Okay. So the move was to pump fake Georgia Tech so that they could come back on the other side with Duke. Interesting that ranked versus unranked getting points. Same thing we've seen in a couple other games this year that actually hasn't worked out in their favor. So a very interesting line move there. Go ahead and tell me what else we've got here for this early morning slate.
Yeah, early morning. Washington took money at Michigan, +6, +5, as low as 4 on Michigan. Arizona flipped to the favorite against Houston. Houston was a slight favorite, -1 when we open. Arizona now 1.5 on that game. And LSU Vanderbilt has been back and forth. Respected people on both sides. That's been tremendous two-way handle.
I find that really interesting. That was one of the games that I just didn't get involved in. I'm in the Westgate College Football Contest. My partner, CT Bet, said, hey, I love LSU. Let's add it. This was one of those weeks where trying to find 7 that we also had in common were hard. We had 3 right out of the gate, and then the other 4 were kind of plug and play. Talk to me about that game, because this is the first time, I think I saw a tweet. It was like in 70 years, that's the first time Vanderbilt has been favored over LSU.
Yeah, I think people are starting to come to the party on Vanderbilt and realize that they are really good. And LSU, with their signature win early in the season against Clemson, doesn't look that great now. I mean, it doesn't. Now, listen, they still went into the other Death Valley and won at night. I understand that, but I don't know. I think Vanderbilt being where it is and that game kind of going back and forth, and it's funny too because when it's under the field goal like that, you see the money line on both sides. They almost take the points out of it. They'll lay minus 125. They'll take plus 110. They'll kind of play around like that with the money line when it comes to a game that's that tight spread wise.
All right, let's talk about some of these bigger matchups here today. There's some great games in the SEC. There's some great games in the Big 12. And as you mentioned, some of these teams are getting a little bit of love as an underdog. And that always concerns me. I was a little concerned about South Carolina this morning, seeing that I'll call them some of the square books, albeit, are very heavy on South Carolina. But to hear you say you guys have two-way action is very interesting. Let's talk the Ole Miss game, the Bama-Tennessee game. I kind of want to hear some of your thoughts on even BYU or Utah-BYU here. This one's going to be an interesting holy war this year.
Yeah, to start with the two SEC games. I mean, Georgia on the opener was 6.5. We got to 7.5, and that was sharp money that took the 6.5. Once again, under the touchdown. If they feel good about a team, they're always going to make that bet. Now, once it hit 7.5, we saw a flood of Ole Miss money, and I've even seen it at 7. So we need Georgia in the game. Tennessee and Bama, it's really been one-way traffic. Bama was 8, now up to 9.5. I've even seen some 10s out there. We've really yet to write a Tennessee bet, so nothing but Alabama money. And the Utah and BYU game has been one of those that's been going back and forth. When it's on the low end, they lay Utah. When it's on the high end, they take BYU. That has seen pretty significant, two-way action. That's one of those games where we just kind of have to maybe avoid 4 and we'll be fine. But that's a game that's right in good handle.
Yeah, last week you guys wanted to avoid 3 with that Alabama-Mizzou game, and of course that's exactly where it landed. That's kind of a difficult spot to be in from a bookmaker's perspective, but it is going to happen from time to time, especially when you're getting that two-way action. Let's kind of talk about some of these other games here that I find really interesting that have really flown under the radar. Washington was a 6, I believe, it was either in your contest or one of the splash contests. So I did play the stale number there. But this is a game I feel like nobody's talking about.
No, I think when you look at some of these earlier 9 a.m. games, which it's in that slot, LSU Vanderbilt's going to get some more love, even Oklahoma, South Carolina. Now, they've kind of been a weird team, and they have question marks with their running back as well, but he'll probably play. Like I said, we're going to be rooting for Michigan. I mean, I haven't seen much Michigan money come in because, like I said, you saw the 6 and the 5 get bet with Washington.
All right, a couple other games that I think are flying under the radar. For whatever reason, Notre Dame has gotten just absolutely steamed over the past few days against the Trojans. I said, I'm not a chalk-eating weasel on bet on it this week, but if I have to play it, I'm going to lay it. Now I feel like it's almost too late to lay it.
Well, yeah, you missed it. I mean, got up to 10.5. We're at 10 now, and
okay.
we were as low as 9. Game of the year line on this was Notre Dame 11.5. So obviously, LSU's power rating's gone up a little bit. Notre Dame's probably dropped a little bit, but it's kind of settled back into that 10 range.
Okay, cool. Anything else worth noting before you give me your needs and, of course, your best bet?
I mean, here's an interesting one. Wisconsin took money at plus 27.5 at home against Ohio State. It's a low total, 41.5. So they just figure, hey, let me take almost the 4 touchdowns. It should be a tight game, low scoring game with a total like that. So I think that's, something to keep of note. And UNLV, hometown team, man, it's been nothing but Boise money. That was 10.5. It's now 13.5. I'd be shocked if we get to 14 because I think you'll see money with UNLV at 14, but a 3-point move to Boise.
That is very interesting there. I believe Marco D'Angelo gave out the under in that game. Anything else worth note, Art? Biggest need of the day, who you're going to be cheering for the most?
Yeah, I mean, some of those games, Georgia really is a significant need for us. And a game that we didn't touch on because the quarterback situation, like everybody piled on SMU this week, of course. So everybody, and they kept taking the worst number. And now we're Clemson 4. I mean, I don't know. That's just one of those games where it happens that way. I mean, we need a miracle out of Clemson, obviously, because nobody wants to take Clemson with their quarterback not playing. So obviously that's going to be a need for us, but it's going to be tough to get there on that one.
Let's talk about quarterback play really quick. Sounds like Sam Levitt is going to be a go for the Sun Devils, which is why we saw a ton of money flood in that direction. Are you guys going to still be cheering for Arizona State, even though with that news, people started piling on the Sun Devils?
Yeah, they did. They did, and that's a crazy game of the line year move. That was Arizona State -3. And now you're looking at Texas Tech 7.5. So yeah, obviously when Levitt plays, that's going to help Arizona State. They looked lost without him. So I think Arizona State at home catching those points as good as Texas Tech has been. That's got to be the move.
Yeah, that's going to be the move for me. That is one that I am going back and forth on because I put them in my parlay in case they happen to win outright. I do have a nice ticket on Texas Tech over wins. And of course, to win the Big 12. So I'm kind of like, damn it. That's what's hard about these futures bet, right? Sometimes they put you in those precarious situations throughout the year. Give me your best bet, Art. I know you got to get back behind the counter and in the risk room. You've got a lot of work to do before kickoff.
I love to throw weird ones out there. I'm taking UL Monroe +5.5.
Okay. +5.5. It is. Art DiCesare, guys, at Art Dice. You guys can catch him on the best betting show ever with Joe Ranieri and the Prez. It's called the best betting show ever because Art's on it and he's the best ever. We appreciate him every single Saturday morning tuning in with all of you, answering any of your questions in the chat and bringing us those needs from the behind the counter. Art, thank you so much, and we'll see you next week. Guys, let's bring in VR. He is here. Gianni the Greek. He's actually not here. He is in Vancouver for the UFC. So we're going to bring him in right now and see what he's got going on every single Wednesday on Bet On It. He brings us the early information, and then we decide here on Saturday morning whether we're going to codify it or not. So bottom line, what did you hear from Art? What do you agree with? What are you seeing on your side?
I like that. UL Monroe. I have them circled as well. I think you just confirmed them for me. I had already bet Georgia. We're on the Georgia side. So that was good news. Otherwise, it's pretty much the same stuff that I've been seeing. A lot of the, we talked about earlier in the week, some of the games that got dummied up now getting hit later as the betting limits get bigger and bigger. We don't have really the big high profile games. I mean, there's some decent matchups, but not that big profile game that's getting all the volume that's one-sided or anything like that. So it's a good day for college football. This is the kind of day you can make some good money because it's spread out. So there's a lot of good numbers still available. Real quickly, I just got an added board game. These I only give out to subscribers when I know we could beat the number, and I only send them out for like 1%, 2%, just so they could have the information because they do so well. But I know not everyone could get down. But we just bet Butler +3.5. Against Dayton, +3 is good there as well. Let me give you 2 player props real quickly also that we bet. These I don't release to subscribers just because the lines move quickly, and I know not everybody's going to be able to get down. Georgia running back Nate Frazier. Georgia's running back Nate Frazier went under 40.5 rushing yards. That's under 40.5 rushing yards. And then Vanderbilt's running back Cedric Alexander, also under 47.5. So that's Cedric Alexander for Vandy, under 47.5 rushing yards. Nate Frazier for Georgia, under 40.5 rushing yards. If they're still available, these props really do well. But again, it's hard getting that money down at those numbers. So anything else to let me know what you want? I got so much information, Kel. There's so much going on today.
Let's see what we got here going on in the chat. We got Teddy Covers coming up here in a few minutes. Then, of course, we've got Kyle Anthony, UFC. So, hey, VR, Georgia Tech versus Duke, a stay away. Ranked road team is a dog. So we kind of talked about this with Art just a minute ago and what got dummied up. And you told me on Wednesday, Georgia Tech was kind of that spot.
Yep.
What are we doing with this game? I think
this is easy.
Stay away.
I got a winner for you. You go under. You go under for the full game. Okay. And then you go and you also go under Georgia Tech team total first half. So we're going under Georgia Tech first half team total, under 14. And then we're going under 61 Georgia Tech Duke full game. You're good there.
Okay.
Go under in that game. And if you see that total move a little up, don't let it scare you. It's so one-sided public money that they're trying to limit their risk by getting guys like me to come in and bet that under. They know we like the under at 61. They're giving us 61 and a halves out there because of all the over money. This is an early game, and there's a lot of risk already tied into that over with later stuff. So any line movement up, they're just trying to get some under money, and we obliged them by going under Georgia Tech Duke.
All right, just a couple of questions in the chat that I want to answer because they're games that we haven't touched on. I feel like we haven't touched on them at all. Texas A&M at Arkansas. Arkansas fires their coach 2 weeks ago, and things look to be on the mend. I've been betting against A&M all season long. Like, let's just be real. I'm done stepping in front of A&M, at least not with this Arkansas team.
What sticks out here is the betting line, because I haven't seen wise guy money on this game except on the under. They steamed the under at 60 and a half and 60, and that's opposite what the public's doing. So if you want one of those sharps on one side, public on the other, go with the under. But also on the side, it's a lot of one-sided action, Kel, on the dog. So they're taking Arkansas plus the 7.5. That's what sticks out to me. Why isn't this one at 7? We haven't seen the wise guys come in and attack the side on this game. And I'm telling you, from looking at the back end, and I don't think that the books, here in Vegas, back in Vegas, will have any different. It's a lot of Arkansas money. Like you just touched on, Texas A&M, no confidence in them. And now not only are they a touchdown, but they're above a touchdown. So they now got to buy 2 scores to cover that game. There's a lot of love on this 2-4 Arkansas team. I get it. They play a lot better at home than on the road. They're 0-3 on the road, 2-1 at home. So that's a real strong home field advantage. And Texas A&M has outperformed the betting market, winning 5-6 straight games, and more importantly, covering 3 of their last 4. But something doesn't sit right, because Arkansas played a really good game against Tennessee, but didn't get there. They lost by a field goal. I have a feeling this one might turn into more of look like the Notre Dame the week prior where they got blown out. Because it seems like that. You remember what happened? They played a tough game against Memphis, lost by 1, then got blown out. Now they played another tough game. I think they're that kind of team. They're at home, but they were at home against Notre Dame as well. I think they end up getting blown out here by Texas A&M. Like one-sided. I don't think Arkansas puts up a lot of points.
Okay, that's fair. A couple other questions here. Another game that we barely touched on, but Art did say that there were some sharp sides taking the plus money with Wisconsin because of the low total. David here in the chat wants to know, Ohio State or Wisconsin? That is a lot of points. VR, you talked about on Bet On It, power ratings. Where do you guys have Ohio State power rated? And should they be basically, what are we talking here? 4 touchdown favorites over? I mean, I don't have my odds logic screen up. I apologize.
No, it's about that high. It's now down to 25 for, a little bit too high. Ohio State's the best team in the country. They were number 1 when the season started. They're still number 1 now. They're about 4 or 5 points better than the number 2 team. So their gap is widening. It was only like a field goal maybe 2 weeks ago. Now it's starting to wide. Guess who's number 2 right behind them? It was Alabama.
It's not Miami.
It ain't Miami. It's Notre Dame. Notre Dame. The guy that I trust most has Notre Dame as his second highest power rated team, followed by Alabama, Oregon, Georgia, Texas, believe it or not.
All right. Let's see. We got a couple more minutes here with VR before we let him go. Anything you want to share in regards to UFC Vancouver? I know we have Kyle Anthony coming on to take some of those questions, but that is why you were in Vancouver. So any insight, anything you're hearing rumblings of that our audience needs to know about?
Yeah. First fight of the night, Melissa Croden. It's her first fight in the UFC. She's Canadian. Okay. She's a big, strong girl. And pre-UFC, she had already been tested. 3 fights in the LFA, won 2 of those. All her wins are by finish. The only losses she has is by decision. But more importantly, pre-UFC, she hadn't fought a single opponent with a losing record. Usually, like I see on the Contender Series, they come in, they're not really tested. They're fighting 0-0 opponents, 0-5 opponents. Like they're just getting some wins as pros. That's not the case with this girl because of being such a high prospect. at 125, I was shocked. She should be at least like a minus 160, 170 favorite. I like Croden a lot. A lock on the card, but it's minus 300. Like if someone said, give me one lock on the card, it's Azamat Bekoev. He's not losing this fight. Belguru, he's like a Dutch kickboxer, a good kickboxer. This kid's going to destroy him. Like that's the one that should be like a minus 600 fight, honestly. The fact that it's minus 300 to me, it's a steal at minus 300. Even money for you. Kyle Nelson over for Matt Favola. I'm a fan of Favola. I like Favola. Not a good matchup for him. And he looked really, really drained for the weigh-in. And then even after the weigh-in, seeing him like rehydrating and just didn't look all that great. And I'd already liked Nelson at even money. I think that's a steal. And then co-main event, Mike Malott, the Canadian. Kevin Holland's going to get some love like he always does, but I think it's the wrong side. Being able to get Malott at minus 110, I think is another steal. Should be at least a minus 150. Wins this fight 6 out of 10 times. So let's go with Malott, Nelson, Bekoev, and Croden.
All right. You guys got your UFC fix. If you have any more questions about UFC, you have to wait till the end of the show when Kyle pops on. I'm done bothering VR on this beautiful Saturday morning. He's going to be back tomorrow morning with Ariel Epstein before he flies back to Las Vegas. So shout out to VR, the hardest working man here in sports these days. Love to see it. Thank you so much for coming on at Greek_Gambler. Make sure you guys are giving him a follow on the social channels. We're going to bring in Teddy Covers to answer all these other college football questions because there's a ton in the chat. We're going to start off right out of the gate. Good morning, Teddy. Thank you for being here bright and early there on the West Coast at Teddy_Covers on social media. Teddy and I do the opening line report on Monday mornings for the NFL. If you guys have not got a chance to check that out, you are missing out on pertinent, life-changing, well, maybe not life-changing, but very good information. He has helped my NFL handicapping immensely this year. And my every NFL game, Teddy, I'm in the contest that we have to pick every single NFL game every single week. And I've done it for years, my buddy Steven, and it frustrates me because I would never do this. Of course, this year we are tied in third place, 56-38 on the season. And I attribute a lot of that to the early information from Teddy. And probably if I stop playing garbage teams like the Titans +6 would also help me out. But we're going to talk college football today with Teddy. We got some questions here. We're going to start off with one game that we haven't touched on at all. I think there's been some really nice marquee games, Teddy. And then there's like that just second tier right below. Like 1A is Ole Miss, 1B is Alabama. And then no one's talking about Mizzou flipping to the favorite here at Auburn. Do you have an opinion here or any information that maybe you think our audience needs to know prior to betting this game?
So it's a pick-up game in my mind. It really is. So when you talk about favorites flipping, the point spread inside of a field goal, it's not a game where I had a strong opinion. And I worry about Missouri finding that same energy that they had last week against Alabama, a game where they kind of left it all on the field. That being said, I think Missouri's a better team, so it's not a game that I'm close to betting. Well, I haven't been close all week. It would take a 3 or higher for me to get to seriously consider either side, and that would only be fading this team.
All right, fading this team. I kind of don't blame you there. This is just not one of those spots where I loved either side. As you mentioned, it's a pick'em game. All right, Teddy, how much do you do with totals in college football?
Not much, but some.
Okay.
I'm very picky with my totals in college football, and that has led to very good results with my totals in college football, but I don't play a lot of them.
I like that. All right. Because a lot of guys are asking Andrew in the question, asking two totals this morning. UCLA, Maryland, 52.5. Cincinnati, Oklahoma State, 57.5. If you have any information or any opinion, maybe why you didn't play either one of these.
So, I mean, UCLA totals wise is a hard team for me to play right now. The Bruins, we've seen the offense come to life the last two games. We really have against, and if we see the same level of production they had against Penn State and Michigan State, this game will fly over the total. All right. If we're talking modern UCLA, the Tim Skipper version of the Bruins, there's certainly that potential for points in bunches. That said, I watched enough of UCLA the first 5 weeks of the season that I I don't know that this is necessarily something that's going to continue. And
let's real quick, let's touch on the side then, Teddy, because this is a Maryland team. I cannot quit. I cannot quit the Terps, even though they break my heart on the money line every single week. The cover's been virtually not in doubt when they've been an underdog. This one opened 3.5, now 2.5. I took the 3.5 early. I took it in a lot of my sale lines and my contests, but I'm kind of wondering if maybe UCLA didn't turn a corner there, right? There becomes pinnacle spots in the season, right? They fire their coach. They get back-to-back underdog wins. Maryland now loses 2 heartbreakers in a row. Maybe I should have quit the Terps prior to this week.
Man, and certainly when you're talking about traveling across the country, all right, I need a reason, a specific reason why I want the team that's traveling 2,500 miles for their game. You know, if they're not if you look at the basic ATS results, just all teams traveling east and all teams traveling west, it's less than 40% ATS in the Big Ten. You know, I mean, it's been the travel spots. If you're just playing the home team, you're doing fine. You're making money. You're making consistent money. So you need a rationale to play that road team. And Maryland's a team, you're right, they've been snatching victory from the defeat from the jaws of victory each of the last 2 ball games. Obviously, when you have a 20-0 lead against Washington, blow that. And then last week, kind of this, it wasn't as big a lead, but a comparable result against Nebraska, which looks even worse after what Nebraska did last night in Minnesota. I don't trust the Terps. So I guess it's, you know, UCLA might be a team to ride here. And if you're playing UCLA, maybe you look at the over. Because I mean, Maryland's an over team, okay? Malik Washington wants to throw the football around. Their defense is not great. Their red zone defense isn't great. And when you have a pass-heavy team who doesn't have a great defense, I have no arguments playing overs in their ball game. So I guess I kind of talked myself into the over, lean to the over, lean to UCLA in that one.
All right, so maybe that question was kind of correct. Maybe that is a good spot there. All right, let's see what we got for other questions here in the chat. Teddy.
Kel, just real quick, that was the second game you asked me about.
Yeah, Cincinnati, Oklahoma State.
So Oklahoma State is you know, Oklahoma State can't stop anyone. All right, they can't. That's as weak a Power 4 conference defense as you're going to find. So I think if Cincinnati stays focused, they can score on every possession against that defense, for whatever that's worth. But that's if Cincinnati played 5. I thought Cincinnati was going to have a high-scoring game last week against UCF, and that game finished 20-11. So, you know, the over never sniffed an over in that contest. So I was dead wrong. That being said, you know, college football has been pretty good. I'm not mad. You know, I'm mad when I have a loser, but I can handle having a wrong side loser on a day where you have more right sides, or a weekend you have more right sides than wrong sides.
All right, let's talk about that. What do you got going on over at WagerTalk in terms of college football for today?
3, only 3 good ones, I think. You know, we've been in action all week, but I mean I usually run on a Saturday. You know, between 3 and 5 plays is standard. Sometimes you get 6 or 7. Sometimes you only find 1 or 2. But we got 3 going. The college football run, 14-6 the last 4 weeks, 70%. So we're making money right now. All sports run 6-1 this week. We're hot right now. We got the weekend warrior packages, which is $49 to get you every single play in football all weekend, including Monday night if we release, and I expect we will. I might have 2 plays on Monday night, in fact. But again, $49 will get you on board right now. Visit my homepage, www.buzz.com/TC, or just visit the website, WagerTalk.com.
Teddy, give me a college football game that narrowly missed your card. Maybe you would have put up as a free play, or maybe it's one that you talked about on WagerTalk today or one of the other shows that you were on.
So we talked about UNLV Boise a little bit. I heard you guys talking about that game earlier on. And I've seen – so the Rebels are a team that I think is an undervalued commodity. All right. UNLV, their statistical profile is not pretty. And they've won multiple games this year that have been lucky. Everyone talks about the Miami O game, and people are going back to week 1. And I look at UNLV as a pretty good team, a team that lost to Boise in the Mountain West championship game last year. The offense didn't really work in that game. So you want to talk about a little bit of extra motivation, you know, it's there for the Rebels. Last week, they didn't cover. There's no betting bandwagon. The wise guys hate UNLV. The money's been pouring in against them. If I'm playing, I'm taking the dog in that one. And UNLV correlates with over. I'm not convinced they're going to shut down Boise, but I would not be surprised at all if they trade points with them all afternoon long. So Rebels were on my short list. Didn't pull the trigger, but certainly lean in their direction.
All right, Rebels on your short list. Let's look at my short list. Let's see what we got left here that we haven't really dove in deep to. There's a game I feel like nobody's talking about. Indiana with a huge upset last week at Oregon, and now nobody's talking about them. They just gave Kirk Cignetti a truck bed full of money. What are your thoughts here on this Big Ten matchup?
Here's my thought. Never bet on the team the week after the coach just got paid.
Ooh, why?
What's Cignetti doing this week? Sure, he's focused, but I just got paid, bro. You know what I mean? And I talked about this on WagerTalk yesterday. All right. Kirk Cignetti will be fired before his contract ends. Just leaving it at that.
Wait, okay. You can't say hot takes like that and not have a follow-up. Please elaborate as to why you think Kirk Cignetti is going to get fired.
They will pay his buyout before. Okay, Indiana's having an impressive run, all right?
Okay.
Last year was great. They snuck up on everyone. This year, he brought in a bunch of big-name recruits, and they're beating the crap out of people, all right? Can he do that in Bloomington the same way into his 70s, or are they going to start getting frustrated too? You know? So look what happened with James Franklin at Penn State, all right?
Look what's happening with my K-State Wildcats. Teddy, we're a nobody team, and I am livid that we're not going to win 10 games this year because the expectation level that was set previous to the season. When you give fans an expectation level, you will get fired in a James Franklin position. James Franklin was expected to go back deep into the college football playoff and fight for a national championship. And losing that game at UCLA and then turning around and losing to Northwestern was inconceivable. And I agree with it. Everybody thinks I'm crazy as a K-State fan because their answer is, who are you going to get that's better? And I think Penn State is now finding out.
Penn State will wish for James Franklin.
I know.
Okay. Cignetti, who I agree with the concept of hey, sign the fat contract here. They love me, and I can win 8, 9, 10 games here.
And the
comes down to
ceiling,
expectations.
yes.
You're being asked, hey, you have to win the national championship every year, or we're going to fire you. You know, or play for it. I mean, that's the Penn State. Like, okay,
Kalen DeBoer. Like, did you guys really think that Nick Saban and everything that he worked so hard for, he wanted to leave because he saw the writing on the wall with NIL and the transfer portal and everything else? Like, I'm going to get a Bill Snyder once in my lifetime. You're going to get a Nick Saban once in your lifetime. Like, us as fans have to take a step back and realize what the reality is in the changing of college football.
And note, we just talked about Franklin. How can they sign these guys to 10-year contracts? You know, because who knows what's going to be like. And Cignetti just signed a 9-year contract. You can't give those kind of contracts, and yet
but he
have to give those kind of contract because that's what it takes to keep the guy. So you end up with bad contracts later on, just like free agency, you know. It's like NBA free agency in particular, where you get all these guys who are making, $20 million a year or $30 million a year, and they're the last guy on the bench, and you trade him as an expiring contract for some bottom feeder who will take them.
All right. Well, let's go to a couple more questions before we get to Kyle Anthony.
Sorry.
We went on a little tangent. This is kind of like the opening line report, except I don't get to follow up with Teddy because we got to hit every single game. Like, Teddy and I could do a 2-hour opening line report if available because I have so many follow-ups. All right. Kelly, you talk about Florida every week. How you feeling about the Gators this week? Andrew did not see my parlay. I am all over Mississippi State. There's an interesting game, Teddy. My dad lives right outside of Gainesville, 3.5 hours south of Gainesville. We talk about it all the time. You get all these little rumblings, right? Billy Napier is going to get fired this weekend, win or lose, is what I'm hearing. Okay. Full disclosure. You talk about coaches getting paid. What about coaches that seats are literally on fire?
Again, it comes down to expectations. The expectations of Florida are very, very high.
Yes.
All right. And in a conference like the Big Ten or like where the Mississippi States of the world, and the Indianas of the world there's pressure there, there's urgency there. You know, where it's very difficult to stay on top, and it's very difficult if you're not the top team. As you know, one of the next 4 or 5, Michigan's finding that out now. You know, it's a whole different world. And when you're talking about 18-team conferences and 16-team conferences, only one team's going to win. All right, so there's a conference title that's not being given out. You know, so anyhow, so certainly I don't want to lay with Florida today. I'd rather take the Gators away from home than at home right now, because if things go south, the crowd is not amused in the swamp. That being said, I bet against Mississippi State in their last game against A&M and cashed that one with room to spare. And I wouldn't be surprised to have another crap game on the road here. They're not at Florida's level. And the Gators A game will destroy Mississippi State.
Yeah, if Florida comes to play like they did when the jersey said Texas across the front of it, absolutely. But I took them again versus A&M, and that offense just isn't good. The defense comes to play, but when they are gassed by the fourth quarter, there's only so much you could do. I've been less than impressed with DJ Lagway. I mean, even when he's not throwing 5 interceptions against LSU, like there's just been an expectation that, hey, he's going to take a big step forward, and it did not happen for the Gators. Let's get one more question here from Teddy. Let's go. Okay, here. This is the game everyone wants to talk about because it's kicking off here soon. Oklahoma, South Carolina. I'm all over the dog. Marco gave out the dog because Oklahoma is coming off that Texas loss. They're 0-3 there with Brent Venables after playing Texas. South Carolina has been so frustrating to me. Last week, I took them versus LSU. This week, as I said, there wasn't a lot of dogs that I liked, so I was like, all right, Marco, I'll bite. We're going to go one more time here with the Gamecocks at home. This is a winnable game in a gauntlet of a stretch of their schedule.
What makes Oklahoma win? I mean, Oklahoma's really good.
John Mateer's not that healthy. I think we saw that last week versus Texas coming off that thumb surgery. I thought they rushed him out there a little bit too early. Look, there was arguments right after week 1 that maybe Lenora Sellers could be in the Heisman race, and then those quickly dwindled. But I do think they have a good quarterback. I think they have a great special teams, and that special teams and defense always seems to be good for not only a turnover, but possibly a score.
I don't disagree with that. I just think Oklahoma's a better team, and I think they're the better team by more than a few points. You know, South Carolina is not a team that I'm particularly high on this year. They certainly haven't done a whole lot to be particularly excited about them. Sellers has been banged up as well this season. He's not at 100% and hasn't been at 100%. Now, if Mateer plays the game he played last week against Texas, and again, Texas's defense is at a different level.
True.
All right. But if Mateer plays that game, Oklahoma's not winning. They're not covering. I haven't bet Oklahoma. But I would certainly lean in that direction. I think that they should be able to control the trenches on both sides of the football in this game. And if you control the line of scrimmage, you can lay 4 on the road.
All right, guys, this is Teddy Covers. I will see him again bright and early Monday morning for the opening line report. We give you all of the information you need to get ready for the NFL week. We kind of touch on what happened the week prior, when we should not be overreacting, or, hey, we got some of those emergency betting alerts. I always like to bring props to the show, guys. So we will see you Monday, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific at Teddy_covers. Give Teddy a follow. You can also watch the rewatch of the show right here on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. If you guys have a UFC question, drop it in the chat because we're going to bring in Kyle Anthony here in 1 minute. Some of the guys saying, hey, where can I catch your socials? Right there at Kelly in Vegas, guys. So you can see all of my parlays. They are going to be, South Carolina money line. Interesting. We'll see. I'm a little nervous, but Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, it's all over the place. Can't miss it. Don't you guys worry. We're going to see what we got here. Use your computer's notes. Everybody's over here sharing note ideas. I'm old school. Piece of paper every single week, and then I trash it. Hopefully, got to cash it. That's what VR likes to say. Kyle Anthony coming in for UFC Vancouver. We're going to take you guys up until kickoff or when the questions stop. Kyle, we're going to get to your two fights, excuse me. My brain is in college football mode. But first, I kind of wanted to talk about some of the ones that VR mentioned, because I love when you guys agree. That's kind of a fun thing. He threw out some big favorites, and you do a hero parlay every week. Sometimes some big favorites, sometimes sprinkle some money line underdogs. You hit that last week, correct? 18-1. You're welcome. It's because I didn't bet it. Talk to me about the hero parlay, and then I'm going to bring up, I'm sure you didn't hear all of them, and I'm not going to be able to pronounce these people's last names, but I'm curious to hear if maybe the three guys or gals, two guys and one gal that VR gave us are also on your radar.
Well, what was the one that he gave? He gave
Croden?
Kyle Nelson. Well, Kyle Nelson was one. Kyle Nelson was one. I actually don't agree with him on that. I actually do like Favola there. And there's a lot of reasons, to be honest, but one of the biggest reasons is that I think that Kyle Nelson is extremely, extremely hittable. I do think the wrestling will be there for Favola. I think the takedowns will be there. I think he's got the power to do it. And I think that Kyle Nelson is really has outperformed his number over the last few fights. He got knocked out recently. So I think this is a great bounce back spot here for Matt Favola, to be honest.
Okay, cool. All right, guys, we got almost 4,500 of you watching. Make sure you guys give us that like. Hit the subscribe button so you never miss another episode here on Saturday mornings. Kyle, I'm going to do it again. One of the fights that you and VR both agree on, Mike Malott versus Kevin Holland. Mike Malott, minus 110 coin flip fight here. I have to get involved. Both of you guys are giving this one out. I got to get involved now.
Yeah, so in this one here, like you said, Mike Malott, it's a pick 'em price tag here. And you've got Kevin Holland, who is a rangy striker, very good at utilizing his reach, has good boxing, does have some power there. And one of the things that he does well also is if you stick out your neck or leave a limb out, he's very good at opportunistic submission game. He's going to go out there and look for these takedowns, look for the opportunity. Where the hell did I go?
I know. This is where I screwed it up because I was trying to do something else and now Kyle's off the screen. I'm just going to let Louis be
All right,
in charge.
we'll keep going. We go. But yeah, Holland has a lot of great things that he does on the feet. The biggest issue for him in this fight is absolutely going to be the fact that Holland has terrible takedown defense. Now, again, he has some submission game, but terrible takedown defense. And not only just that, but he's facing Malott, who is a wrestler, who is a grappler, and there's opportunities there, but he can be taken down. But also the fact that a lot of the situation where Holland just gets stuck on his back. He's a guy that, he's going to throw up very low percentage submissions off of his back. He can be taken down. He can be kept there. And that's really right into Malott's game. And Malott is a guy that's going to take the path of least resistance here. I think the takedowns will be there. I think that if he wants to get the takedown, it's there. Then once he's down, I think he can bank the round. I think that he can keep the round, look for submission ability to look to finish that fight. And I also don't think that there's anything that really Holland can do to really defend that. And obviously one of the biggest, probably the biggest downside on Malott, because there is one, and it is a little bit the vulnerability in cardio. Now, a couple fights ago, we fought Neil Magny in a fight where Malott was winning the first 2 rounds. He gassed out and got knocked out with 10 seconds left. It wasn't the greatest look for him. He's bounced back with a couple wins. But the difference here between Neil Magny and Kevin Holland is the fact that they don't fight the same. Neil Magny weaponizes his cardio. He comes forward. He keeps opponents working. He's trying to really drain on you to get that finish in that later round. That's not Kevin Holland's game. Kevin Holland is very low paced. He lacks the daisical with his offense. He's a guy that's not really going to really be pushing any type of pace at all. And you've also got the fact that Holland is incredibly inconsistent. He's a guy that has said, even in interviews, he doesn't want to fight high-level guys. He doesn't want to fight for a title. He just wants to fight for money and fight these middling fighters and some fighters that maybe are looking to be on the rise, like Malott is, and that's kind of it. And that's not something you want to hear from someone you're backing here. So I think that Malott can dictate the pace, get the takedowns, bank rounds. And I think the submission is absolutely live here. But I think, this line has come in here because people do. I think VR said it, people just love Kevin Holland. He's a character, but I think this is a great spot for Malott in Canada, in home soil. So I think he gets the job done here.
As somebody who knows very minimal about the UFC, when I recognize one name and see that they're at a pick'em coin flip, that's a problem. And of course, I do recognize Kevin Holland. I love everybody loves when I pronounce the fighters' names and just completely butcher everything. Hockey would also be hard, just like your last name, Andrew. I'm not even going to try. All right, there is one that I can. Renier de Ritter versus Brendan Allen. Talk to me about this fight, Kyle. And then also, before you get into it, let everybody know what you've got up for UFC Vancouver over at WagerTalk.com.
Yeah, so right now I've got 6 plays up. I have a big slate, a lot of plays that I do like. I have a 5% max bet play, which actually is at plus money. I love the spot there. I've always got plus money in my packs. This is another great spot here. We're hitting at 75% clip on these 5% plays. So love the spot, and we're gonna get the job done today.
All right, let's get into this second fight and who you like to go the distance.
Yeah, so we have Rainer de Ridder here. He's minus 210 on the comeback. You've got Brendan Allen. He's sitting around plus 170 now. You've got Rainer de Ridder here. He's a former two-division champion over at ONE FC. Since he's come over, he's really looked great. He's on a 4-0 run. He just beat former champion Robert Whittaker in a great fight. And that fight really answered a lot of questions where, we weren't really sure, is he at the ability? Is he at this height? Is he able to really fight at this level? And he was, he went through some adversity, got dropped early, and was able to really push through and was able to really find a lot of success there. He showed that, he does have cardio, he does have durability, and he is tough. Now, one of the biggest advantages here, I think, for RDR is going to be the fact that he is massive for this division. He's huge, and he's a guy that really utilizes that and bullies people, leverages his size, is able to lean on his opponents, look for those takedowns, get top control, push him up against the fence. And he's able to really utilize that heavy forward pressure. And that's just going to be something that, again, he squeezes down to this division. He's going to, when he rehydrates, he gets massive. And he's going to have that strength and physicality advantage here that I think he can really start to really utilize that throughout this fight. Now, Allen is a well-rounded fighter. There's no doubt, but he has a lot of flaws. And one of his biggest flaw is really the fact he's got terrible cardio. And that's a terrible thing for him coming into this matchup here where, yes, early he can have some nice, combinations. He has some nice wrestling exchanges. He can mix it up, but really outside of like the first 8-9 minutes, he can start to slow down in the fight. And these are in 3-round fights. This is now going to be a 5-round fight. And the biggest issue here, and one of the biggest red flags, is the fact that this is short notice for Brendan Allen as well. So for a guy that already has suspect cardio, durability can be a little bit iffy. This is a tough spot for him to really come in. And I talked about it a little bit last week. We did hit on our 4% on Charles Oliveira. A big reason why I liked him at Pick'em was the fact that Gamrot's coming in on short notice of like 2 weeks, 5-round fight, and they were shipping him to Brazil. A lot of moving parts there for a guy that he won't be in optimal peak physical condition. Now, Rainer on the other side here, that I just think everything that he does can really nullify what Allen does well. And you're talking about takedowns, you're talking about wrestling. I don't think that really materializes here for RDR. I think he's able to kind of, dictate the pace. He's the one that's going to be able to defensive wrestle and then offensive wrestle and get his takedowns here. He's very unorthodox. He's very awkward in his movements, very tough to prepare for. And I think he's able to muscle takedowns, get top control. And I think he finds a finish here. I think the fact that this is on short notice, I think highly favors RDR. And that's where I think that he's going to drain him. He's going to be able to melt him as this fight goes on. So you have RDR, he's minus around the minus 210 mark. You can get him inside the distance around plus 110. I think that is really a fantastic number. I think it's a great number. And I think he gets the job done inside those 5 rounds.
All right, we got to take a couple questions from the chat before we get out of here. This one's interesting. Malat, knockout in the second. Okay, so you like Malat. VR likes Malat. Is there any of these, I would call the exotics, if you will, knockout, to win by decision, things like that? Are there anything else that you like in this fight, particularly how Malat may win it?
Yeah, I mean, I think inside the distance is extremely live here. And I think especially the fact that the home crowd, Malat's a guy that really likes to fight in front of his home crowd. He's always fighting there. I think that does push these guys, whether in Brazil, whether it's going to push the home crowd. They're going to be backing you. They love Mike Malat here. So I lean more towards inside the distance because I think that if you're going to go a path, get a little bit more, but take both methods here because if the fight goes to the ground, Malat absolutely has a chance to submit Holland. He has such a grappling disadvantage that it could be there. And I don't really, unless it's a ground and pound, but I don't really see him wanting to stand and strike with Holland because of the 8-inch reach advantage. He's much larger. He's going to utilize that. So I think the takedowns is where it's at. Yes, it could be the knockout, but I think inside the distance, taking both methods is probably the little bit of the safer route there.
All right, we got about 10 minutes until kickoff. I don't see any more questions in the chat, but Kyle, anything else you'd like to leave our audience with?
I could quickly give out Charles Jourdain versus Davy Grant here. Now you've got Charles Jourdain, he's minus 170. Davy Grant's about plus 130. And, this one here, I think is actually a great fight for another hometown guy in Jourdain here. And, you got Jourdain, who is high risk, high reward kind of guy. He's going to do a lot of spinning shit. He's going to jump around. His nickname is Air Jourdain. He really kind of sticks with the flashy stuff that he does do. But you've got Grant, 39 years old, 10 years older than Jourdain. And yes, he's got some victories, but they're against very low-level opposition. And where I'm going with this is I like Jourdain double chance, which is going to be submission or by points, which is sitting around plus 105. And I think that's a great spot here because the last time that Charles Jourdain had a knockout was back in 2021. The last 5 wins for Jourdain were submission or by decision. And also, you've got to add in that out of Grant's 7 losses, he's never been knocked out. So it really pins you to 2 really methods that, Jourdain, not really the finisher of the knockout side. I think that the submission can definitely materialize, but I think he pitter-patter shots, works on the outside, and just dominates over 3 rounds. So plus 105, I think, is a nice spot.
All right. And when will the hero parlay be out for today?
I will be probably in the next 20, 30 minutes. Check it again. Like you said, Kelly, we hit on 18-1. There's a nice spot there. Now, wait, here's the question, though. The big question is, are you betting it?
Oh, yeah, right. Exactly. Listen, every once in a while I'll catch it. I really should pay more attention to what some of these guys are on, especially if it's a fun card. And I know I'm going to be out watching college football and the UFC card's going to be on.
Right.
No, just for the audience, I will not bet it today, but you guys can get it out on social media at Kyle Anthony UFC. Good luck to you, Kyle. Good luck. I already did bet a lot. So just everybody.
All right. All aboard.
We can blame me in the comment section. Thank you, Kyle, for coming on. Will we see you next Saturday? Is there, I don't have the UFC schedule in front of me.
Yeah, big card next week. 2 title fights. Tom Aspinall defending the heavyweight title versus Cyril Gane. It's actually going to be starting at noon. So when we come on here, it's just going to be kicking off. It'll be a good time to kind of discuss everything.
Wonderful. Love that for us. Thank you to Kyle. Thank you to Teddy. Thank you to VR. And of course, thank you to Art. And a big thank you to all of you guys hanging out here with us on Saturday morning on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. Almost 5,000 of you across YouTube, social media, et cetera, et cetera. Again, if you guys are looking to be an insider, WT.buzz/insider is going to get you early access to shows like Bet On It, get you some inside information, of course, from the Steam Room. Yes, VR will be back with the Steam Room Sunday, right after Last Call. And if you are an insider, you get to join for free. Usually that's only open to premium subscribers. So make sure you guys check that out tomorrow. Last Call, 11:30 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. Errol Epstein hosting. We got Carmine Bianco, Steve Merrill. We've got John Murray from the Westgate Superbook, and of course, VR. Good luck today, guys. Thank you again, and we'll see you next week.